Good evening, everyone. A very warm and humble welcome to the webinar series under Youth and Adolescent Health. My name is Aliza Hassan and will be moderating today's session with my colleague Rahul. As today we are holding a webinar on air quality and air pollution control, as it becomes our foremost duty to bring this subject into notice and aware more and more people over the subject. Let's start with having a brief introduction about SHARP. SHARP stands for School Health Annual Report Program, working from over 21 years in the field of holistic development and healthcare of students and children. We at SHARP always try to emphasize on the problem related to youth and adolescent during and after pandemic, and now focusing on safety guidelines and commuting in need of an hour for not just students, but for teachers and adults as well.
Absolutely. Air pollution is the single largest environment-related global health risk. 1/4 of the global population is breathing unsafe air, and 7 million people die annually from diseases just related to air pollution. This is according to the WHO. And the air quality is seriously dipping. Shockingly, there is still no solution for the capital of our country. In this webinar, we will be talking about air pollutions and measures to control the same.
Before taking the round of discussion further, here's an open question for all the panelists. We would love to hear your perspectives. As we all know, the levels of PM 2.5. Tiny particles that can clog people's lungs in Delhi are far more higher than WHO safety guidelines. What would you say about the situation, and what measures people can take in these circumstances to eliminate or reduce the risk and its impact? I would like all the panelists to say a few words and give their views on the subject. Poonima ma'am, would you like to take up the, you're on mute, ma'am.
Yes, sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, the PM 2.5 levels as well as PM 10 levels in Delhi and other cities is hazardously high, it's alarmingly high. There are many things that we all could do, the government can do. One, of course, is better moving to renewable energy sources is one of the things. Getting away from fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are among the most highest risk factors that cause air pollution as well as climate change. It's fossil fuels that increase the level of PM 2.5. The other thing, of course, is this stubble burning, which I think everybody knows is a huge factor. Moving to renewable energy is really one of the big sources. Green energy sources is what I would say is something that needs to be done on a war footing. Sure, if somebody else has to.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Sarath, would you like to share your views?
Hi, good morning. I'll give a few pointers that I noted down. I mean, the thing is, we talk about air pollution only now. It's always like a week or two before Diwali, and then when this harvest burning happens. But the problem is that the pollution happens year round. I mean, it's the silence that comes both from the media and other groups as well. But mathematically speaking, your average of Delhi and other cities as well is high, not because of these episodes. It's high because of year-round sources. If we neglect to push that point, it's very important to focus on that. You know, the burning that happens here, it happens for 2 weeks. Diwali is literally one night. So a one night's peak and a 2-week episode is not going to alter your 52-week average. You know, when you look at WHO statistics, and it says that Delhi is the most polluted city in the capital city in the world, they are looking at an annual average, and that's not driven by one day peak. So it's really important that if we stress on stubble burning is my problem and Diwali is my problem, we are never going to solve that problem. Now we have to think that, if you're going to focus only on Delhi, that Delhi has 20 million people. Okay, they have energy needs, and those energy needs are not driven by 1 day or 10 days. It's driven by demand for 365 days. So you have close to 15% of registered vehicles in the country, those are registered in Delhi. Okay, so it's very important to focus on that number. You have 20 million people, which is less than 1% population, is using 15% of registered vehicles in the country. So that's, then you can translate that into some of the back of the envelope calculations on how much fuel is consumed in the country, in the city. So you have 20 million people, you have waste generated. So do you have enough capacity to pick up the waste, manage the waste, and make sure it's discarded properly? No. So if you look at the amount of landfill capacity that was there in 1997, there is a white paper that was published by the Central Pollution Control Board in 1997. If you look at that, the landfill capacity in that report, and if you look at the landfill capacity mentioned in the action plan that was published last year, exactly the same. But the population has increased. The amount of garbage that's being collected has been increased, but why hasn't the same level of improvement happened in the waste management? So these are really critical to make sure that we look at this problem from a source point of view, not from a episode point of view.
Yes.
It's okay to talk about this problem when the problem is actually at the peak on our charts, but you have to look all year round. You have waste management and garbage burning problem. You have traffic problem all year round. You have dust problem all year round, because you have unpaved roads and there's a lot of dust on the roads. You have enough construction activities happening throughout the year, which is putting enough dust on the road to get resuspended. Okay, you have a good number of industries. They're probably not in Delhi, but they're like surrounding the Delhi areas where continuously a lot of environmental norms are violated. So you need to then focus on the industries as well. And these industries are not running for 1 day or 2 weeks. They're running 32 weeks. So bottom line is, if you really want to tackle air pollution problem, you have to go to the sources which are there all year round. And the laundry list is really small. Garbage burning, take care of your waste, take care of your industries, take care of your traffic, do some greening in the city, so that a lot of trees actually help us in controlling a lot of these dust problems. So the laundry list comes down to literally 5 things that we have to do it fully well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. So what you're trying to say, it is not just Diwali or not just burning. It is basically the source point of view that we need to focus on, and only then something can be done. But then all this, sir, whenever we talk about exactly the way you said it, whenever it is raising, we talk about it during winters or during the burning, and then we just forget it throughout the years. It's just basically like writing an essay during our school days, and that's it. We are done with it. So thank you so much, sir, for explaining all the source points, especially the construction and everything. Priyadarshini, ma'am, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I totally agree with Sarath that one has to figure out for any city. I mean, there is just one example which is in the news right now, but every city will have to identify what are the sources of local pollution and deal with that. But there is another point which I want to highlight here is that there are important differences between climate change and air pollution, which is necessary to understand. The solutions often go hand in hand, but sometimes there is a conflict. So, for example, you have to understand that carbon dioxide, which is the main driver of climate change, is not a pollutant. Pollutants are chemicals which are not natural constituents of our atmosphere. So let's not mix the two things, because fossil fuels, if they are not burned properly, will cause pollution. So if air pollution is the only problem that we want to basically deal with, then moving away from fossil fuels may not even be required. You may just need to put in place technologies which are burning fossil fuel in a cleaner way. But we want to move away from fossil fuels to renewables because we want to also deal with climate change. So there are these differences which is important to understand, because as I said, some pollution is related to air, some pollution is related to water, some pollution is related to land.
Priyadarshini ma'am, there seems to be some problem with your network. Can you please check अगर आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है तो? Aliza, it is the same for you?
Yes, I think there is some problem with ma'am. All right, let's move ahead. Once she come back, we can again continue with the same.
Okay. So before we open this round of discussion, we have a small quiz that Sharp NGO has prepared for all the attendees. And at the same time, I would request these expert panelists to explain why that answer has come up and the different parts of the question. If that is okay with the panelists. All right, thank you. Can we have the quiz, please? So it's a basic quiz about how much do we actually know about air pollution. Or this is for all the attendees. Can we have the first question? In case of pollution due to high ozone levels, one must take which of the following precautions? A, drink lots of water and fluid. Expose oneself less to sunlight. Both A and B. None of the above. Can we have the answers in the chat box? We are waiting for your answers in the chat box.
I request all the attendees to please, all right. So first answer came from Hema Bhavani. That is the right answer. So if the panelist can put some explanation to it, why it is important, because it is very important for all of us to know the reasons why we are doing anything for any particular subject. Mr. Sarath, please take up the explanation.
I'm kind of baffled because I never came across this before.
All right, not a problem. Ms. Poonima, ma'am, would you like to take up this? You're on mute, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I was just trying to get in touch with Priyadarshini ma'am.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So one, of course, the answer for B is expose oneself less to sunlight is very important, because the ozone layer is a protective layer on the outer edge of the atmosphere, and it prevents UV sunlight from reaching us, the harmful sunlight from reaching us, harmful UV rays rather. And so therefore we should expose ourselves less to sunlight. The other thing is drinking lots of water and fluid will just keep us more hydrated and able to combat the dehydration that happens. That's these are the two.
But just to get a clarification, I think here the question is about high ozone levels at the ground. So if you're
okay.
So if there is some
sorry, okay. Okay, sorry.
High ozone levels, nothing to do with UV.
Okay, okay. No, high in case of pollution due to high ozone levels. No. So I'm sorry. Here I was I misunderstood the question. Please, yes, thanks for
the thing is, any pollution, first advice is that try to make sure that you are exposed to that pollution as little as possible. So it has nothing to do with sunlight, nothing to do with water. So less you are exposed to any pollution, whether it's ozone, PM 2.5, SO2, NO2, CO, you don't want any of that exposure in your body as much as possible. I would have definitely gone with none of the above, but as I said, I was completely baffled by the question. So if you're, for example, if you're standing at a traffic light and your eyes start watering, that's because ozone, if there is when there is enough nitrogen oxides and VOCs there at traffic junction, they are reacting constantly, and it will produce ozone. And ozone is a really good oxidizer. So what happens is it tries to gets attracted to that little droplets that are there on your eyes, and then you feel the irritation. Same thing happens in your nose as well, and your eye starts watering, your nose starts watering. So that's a very immediate reaction that one gets when you get exposed to a decently high amount of ozone level. So what we suggest is people put their mask or handkerchief in front of your nose, mainly to not breathe as much of whatever is there right in front of you. So my answer would have been, if you think that there are pollution levels higher, then try to get exposed yourself to your exposure time to be as little as possible. That's
Thank you, sir. So what you're trying to say is we should be first keeping ourselves safe and not letting us get exposed to that kind of an pollutant. But these are basic questions because we've got school students also. So just to keep them up and make them understand that they're supposed to be drinking lots of fluids so that they can clear out all the irritants or whatever it is. I don't know technically if that is right or wrong.
No, I think there is some mismatch with the question and answers.
Okay, so maybe we can go to the next question. Aliza, would you like to take up the next question, please?
Yes. Which of the following can be considered causes of air pollution? Climate change, greenhouse gas emission, heavy vehicles movement, or all of the above? I request all the attendees to please I can't see any of one.
No, there are a lot of students and participants replying D. I can see a lot of D's and
Yes.
A's. Let's see what the right answer is. Can we have the right answer on the screen, please? Okay, so sir, do you think it is right or wrong?
No, I would have gone with C because I think Poonam ma'am has also mentioned earlier, saying that there is, I think Priyadarshini was saying, one of you was saying that, sorry, that climate change is climate change, air pollution is air pollution. The climate change is happening because something is in the air, for decades and centuries, and it's evolving over time. But man, we are not breathing that. What we are breathing is what's happening in our immediate vicinity. In our immediate vicinity, that's basically heavy. In this case, one example here we have on the question is vehicle movement. So vehicle movements, we have vehicle exhaust, you have road dust, and then on the other side, all the other stuff that's happening in your vicinity. So the answer should be C. But
yeah, that's right. And in fact, that was the point I was making earlier, that there is this confusion always in people's mind, and they tend to, there is this cross connection. Greenhouse gases are not pollutants. I mean, they take carbon dioxide. It is a natural constituent of our atmosphere. It is the driver of our life systems. If there was no carbon dioxide, there will be no photosynthesis, there will be no life on the planet. What the problem of climate change is, because there is excessive buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which has nothing to do with the pollutants that we are breathing in at our nose level. So these are, in that sense, two entirely different issues, and often this mix-up tends to happen. But here the correct answer would be vehicle movement.
Right, but then that's great. Even we are getting our doubts cleared here in the webinar from experts like you. So imagine all the ones who are attending would be getting it very clear today. So thank you so much, sir and Mami. Can we go to the next question, please? What we'll do is we will not show the answer, and we'll let the panelists.
That would be my words.
So, what is the particulate matter causing air pollution called? Is it called smog? Is it called soot? SOOT? I guess I'm pronouncing it right. Is it called foam, or none of the above? And till we get the answers in the chat box, if any of the panelists would like to explain what these terms mean.
Okay, smog is basically, it's a combination of two different components. One is smoke and fog. And this smog happens in a very, very strict conditions. So it doesn't happen all the time. So what we're seeing, especially in the winter time, what we see is smog, because there is smoke coming from all these pollution sources. And then fog, which is combined with very stringent conditions in the meteorological, all the meteorological parameters, that allows for formation of what we call as a smoke screen that will just stay there for a very, very long time. So that's the fogginess that you see during the daytime. So smog is a combination of both smoke and fog, which is with the meteorological parameters, it says there. But soot is basically an easier way of saying whatever is coming from all these different pollution sources. So one of them definitely is with the particulate matter. Foam is just when you have some liquid which is aerated, and it becomes smoke, foam. I don't think it usually is considered as a air pollutant, but it is a pollutant, especially in the water form, in the water management side. So, pick.
Thank you, sir. So let's just go to the answers in the chat box. We can see B, A. Sir, is B the right answer here?
I think I would go with B as well.
All right, Priyadarshini, all right.
Yeah, that's true. However, the particulate matter, I mean, PM 2.5, especially that we talk about, will not be visible as soot. Soot is visible particulate matter, which is even smaller than that, 2.5 micron size. That is something which goes directly into your lungs and is more dangerous from health perspective, and it's not even visible. So there can still be particulate matter pollution even if you are not seeing any soot.
Thank you so much, because most of us, we only talk about smog or PM 2.5 after we have been we have started wearing masks due to COVID. It is either N95 which says PM 2.5 on the mask, and that's how everybody has heard about it, I believe, as of now. Let's say so it's soot, right?
But I just like to add to this that so when you said what is the particulate matter causing air pollution, so it is referred to as PM, particulate matter or suspended particulate matter, and like Priyadarshini ma'am said that so PM 2.5 or PM 10 are very tiny particles that are not visible to the eye. So PM, so like the human hair is about 40 or 50
micron.
Yeah, microns. So so that is exactly what. So that is how small these particulate matter is, and like she said, that soot is not really the right answer, but it will do for this quiz.
Thank you.
Now, can you enable my share screening? I'll show one small image.
Sure, sir. Can we please give sharing rights to Mr. Sarap? Sir, please check if it's now you are able to.
Not yet.
All right, one more second. Can we please have sharing rights to Mr. Sarath?
Okay, got it.
All right.
So just showing you one small image. So what we call as particulate matter is it has combination of both components coming from gases and as aerosols themselves. So if we chemically dissect a particulate matter sample that you get from any of the place, you will find these components. You have what we call as organic carbon and black carbon, which is basically unburnt fuel that directly comes out as carbon. And organic carbon is more whitish and black carbon is black. So from a diesel tailpipe, you will see the black smoke coming out. That's basically black, mostly black carbon. If you have garbage burning, there you will see a lot of white smoke. That's mostly organic carbon. Then you have a lot of metals and then crustal dust. So these are directly in aerosol, what we call as aerosol, particulate matter form. Then you have a lot of these gases which are there. They also eventually contribute to particulate matter. So like sulfur dioxide, it's very commonly referred to. It reacts with, undergoes a lot of chemical reactions and then forms sulfates. This is then is part of the PM 2.5 and even PM1 fraction. Same thing with the NOx, nitrogen dioxide and nitrous oxide. All those nitrogen oxides, they have really good tendency to react with other volatile organic compounds and ozone that's present. And eventually, after all kinds of saturation stuff, they form what we call as nitrates. And this aerosol form is also part of PM 2.5. Same thing with ammonia. So we use a lot of fertilizers in the country. So a lot of ammonia gets evaporated from the fields. And this eventually reacts with sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides in the atmosphere. And it forms ammonium aerosol. That's aerosol form. That's also part of PM 2.5. So what we call generally referred to as PM 2.5, it's not really a physical particle that comes out all the time. It has a mix of both physically evolved aerosols and chemically evolved aerosols. All of that is part of your PM. So in general media, we throw these words as soot, aerosols, dust, and we commonly refer to them as all of them as PM 2.5. But if you really chemically dissect it, there's a much deeper story that's there in that one question. Okay, that's it.
Thank you so much, sir, for explaining what actually PM means, and I'm sure this is going to be a take home for everybody. I would request the attendees, if they want, they can take a screenshot of this, because we are not going to see this ever again. Or you can watch our YouTube and go through it and keep it with you. But keeping a screenshot here live is the best thing that you can do.
It's also available on our website.
Okay.
All right. So many attendees want the copy of the PPT for further education down the line. So if possible, we will share with you in emails, if possible. All right. So there is one thing we have been hearing a lot about Minamata disease. So I would like the panelists to throw some light on it because of the pollution and everything in this scenario. We have been hearing in the headlines and many people are suffering of it, but they do not have the proper information and knowledge because it's not that common and people are not very much informed about it.
Sorry, I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not even though I go with Dr. Sharath, but I think if anybody with some medical background can answer that question. I mean, I can only tell you that it's caused by exposure to mercury, but we don't really hear that often in India. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is caused, if I recall correctly, it's more of a water pollution related issue than air pollution, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, ma'am, not a problem. We can go ahead with the few instructions. Over to you, Rahul.
Okay, so a few instructions before we actually start this webinar. We will be having a round of discussion with the panelists that we are going through, and then we will be having a question and answer round. The audience is requested to drop in their question only in the question and answer box, and we will be taking up live questions, and the best live sharpest question of the day will get a gift voucher worth 500 rupees. Also, we kindly request the audience not to fill up the chat box with the unnecessary messages, because we may tend to miss out on the important questions. So now, without any other delays, we would like to introduce our expert panelists that are there today. Lisa, would you like to start?
Yes, sure. So very first panelist is Dr. Priyadarshini Karve. She completed PhD in physics from University of Pune in 1998. Her first research project resulted in the development of a process for converting agriculture waste into charcoal. In a career spanning more than 20 years, Dr. Karve invented a number of improved biomass burning cooking devices to reduce smoke in the kitchen and dependence on firewood for domestic cooking in rural areas. She also developed a methodology for technology selection and promotion to improve adoption of clean cooking energy devices by end users. Dr. Karve, who is a managing director of Samuchit, also invented an easy way to use Samuchit carbon footprint calculator for urban Indias, and other conducted workshops on climate-friendly lifestyles, sustainable urbanization, etc. She is also a founder director of Orja Box LLP, a women-led green startup from 2021. Her work has been acknowledged by several national and international awards and awards. Thank you, ma'am, for being on the panel.
Thank you.
Our next panelist, Dr. Sarap, is a chemical engineer, atmospheric scientist, and a founder of Urban Emissions. In 2016, their team launched the only air quality forecast platform for all of India, and the Air Pollution Knowledge Assessments APNA city program showcasing emissions, pollution, and source contribution information for 60 cities in India. He currently serves as a member of WHO's Air Quality Guidelines Development Group and as an adjunct professor at the IIT Delhi. We are really glad to have you here, sir.
Our next panelist is Ms. Poonima. She consults as a content and digital marketing expert with various organizations. Over the past decade, Ms. Poonima has been active in local communities, encouraging citizens to play a role in owning their public spaces, promoting environment-friendly lifestyles, better resource management, and endorsing healthy practices around waste management. The group she founded has won awards in 2018, 19, and recently in 2021 from the Pune Municipal Corporation for work in sanitation and waste management. She mentors underprivileged youth through Ishania Foundation and has conducted group counseling sessions at the Juvenile Justice Board. She proactively participates in building active citizenship in the community. You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay. So to start with the first question, because we've been talking a lot about pollution and the types of pollutions, but then it says that it is a disaster that people are saying. The air pollution is basically a disaster, and it is not just an international epidemic. It is, as of now, a national epidemic that we are going through. And India has got 13 of the most polluted cities according to WHO. So what exactly is the best way to come up with pollution monitoring and control? Any of the panelists can take this up.
I think Sarat is the best person to answer this.
So we have been receiving these questions from the back end, from the attendees who join us and they know what the subject. So the questions we will be taking up in this round are all from the attendees who wants the better awareness on the information on the subject. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, sorry, can you see everything on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. See, we talk about just a few cities. So this is actually coming from our forecasting platform that released this just now. So what will be the pollution in the country for the next 3 days? So the thing is, it's not about just one place, those 30 cities where you have some monitoring data, but pollution is happening everywhere. So you need to, as I said in the opening remarks, that you have to tackle all the sources. So it's not just one source that will really solve the problem. So if you go to this is just for Delhi itself. What will be the air pollution in Delhi? Now, what we are expecting on Monday is actually the cleanest there will be in the last couple of weeks, only because there's a lot of wind that's blowing through. But to your question, what is it that we need to tackle is something like this. So where is the pollution coming from? So pollution is coming from all the sources, not just coming from your open fires. No, just for today, our estimate is 16% of the pollution came from the fires that are happening in the north, but your 84% of the pollution is basically coming from sources that are burning something or the other. Okay, when you have vehicles, petrol and diesel, you have road dust, you have power plants and diesel generator sets that are running non-stop. When you order some power plants to shut down, all it does is take the load off from the power plants and put it in the diesel generator sets, which are in your backyard. So it literally gets translated from one source to the other. Then you have industries, about 16%. You have household. This is basically your cooking and heating. So right now, the entire Indo-Gangetic plain, we are seeing temperatures now averaging about 12 degrees centigrade. So 12 degrees centigrade means that you need some heating. Like 15, 16 degrees, you can put a blanket on and sit outside. But at 12 degrees centigrade, there are enough people in our Indo-Gangetic plain. They require some form of heating, which means that they will burn whatever they can get their hands on. So that is going to add to your pollution load. So that is what we call here as households. So there's always pollution coming from outside, but there's enough activities that are happening in the cities which need to be tackled in the cities. And that's the responsibility of the city authorities. And as I said, the laundry list comes down to only 5 things. You take care of your traffic. Either you move people away from motorcycles and cars to buses, or you change some form of that. And you take care of your waste, you take care of your industries, you take care of your dust on the road, and you green the cities. There's a laundry list literally comes down to 5 things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for explaining it so wonderfully. Any of the other panelists would like to add something to the same?
I just want to add to this that as this chart or this pie chart showed, and as Sarath also mentioned, stubble burning happens only over a short period of time, and its contribution even in that case is less compared to other sources which are within the city. So the point is, rather than blaming something which is not in our hands, we need to first focus on things which are within the city and therefore in our hands. Talking about stubble burning all the time means basically we are we are moving away from our responsibility to solve our own issues which are in our hands. So that's something to keep in mind.
Right, ma'am. So what you're trying to say is that basically everybody is just blaming, that blame game is going on.
Yeah.
And everybody is on the ground working for better quality of air. And whatever we are breathing today, it is actually saying that it can lead to a lot of cardiovascular diseases. Yep. It can lead to a lot of infections, and the state level disease burden, that the exposure has gone to such a level that it is basically next to China. There are a lot of deaths that are happening in India itself just because of air pollution. So I'm not trying to scare the attendees here, but then this is the reality that we need to have a look at. So because it is basically, actually it is the urban reality, and we cannot, like ma'am said, that we cannot just keep blaming one or two reasons for each and everything every time. So when we say that India ranks second in terms of premature deaths just because of air pollution and I don't know, I don't think even people would have heard this, or they would have actually taken this into consideration, where they say that air pollution kills more people than tobacco use, than alcohol use, or even drug use. Am I right or am I wrong? The panelists can talk about this.
Well, I don't know about these statistics, but I think the important difference here is that all the other examples that you are talking about, tobacco use, drug use, etc., these are, I mean, I can decide not to do that. Whereas if I'm living in a city, I am exposed to the air pollution. I have no way of escaping from that. I think that is the reason why tackling air pollution is more important, irrespective of these ranking as the biggest killer or whatever.
Right, ma'am. Right. So absolutely, there's something that we can do, and that's what I think we should know today from experts like you, that if this is going out of our control, and even the capital of the country is not able to control pollution, what exactly do you think are the right steps? Like, Right now, they are saying that the schools should be closed so that they are not exposed to the pollution. But what are the right steps so that the children, the youth, the old age people, and us, the basically the youth, how do they stay safe from the ill effects of air pollution? And if we can have it in Hindi and English so that the audience can understand, if that is okay with you. Any of the panelists can go for this.
Okay, I'll take a crack at it. So the main thing is we have to reduce exposure. That's the main part. It can be done in many ways. One is cutting down people, shutting down the school so that people don't get exposed to that so much outside. But it has other social consequences that we have to worry about. But the thing is whether, so this is again a misconception. Just because you're sitting in the house doesn't mean that you're not getting exposed. Exactly. It's a big misconception. Yeah. When we are a society where our windows are always open, our doors are open. The minute you open, whatever is outside will come inside. It literally doesn't take more than a second to fill up whatever is outside. The same air will come and stay inside. So, and you're breathing it. So it's a complete misconception that shutting down everything and closing and sitting in the house is going to help you with less exposure. No.
Right.
So
please
go ahead.
Yeah, so having said that, as we discussed, that a less exposure would do good to people. So as you mentioned it again, that if we open something, whatever is out will definitely come in. It could be minimized, but the air is same everywhere. So what can one do to maintain the indoor air quality? Because even if we live at our home, there is a risk we breathe the same air. If any measures that can be taken to maintain the good indoor air quality?
I mean, anything I say will be taken very wrongly at this point.
Sir, what you can do basically will give some tips and tricks that the audience can apply so that they're safe. Because all they want is quick remedies instead of actually going in deep. So
Also, if I see as a person, if I would have been in Delhi and working, so I would definitely, if I'm moving out for my professional measures, I would definitely need to know what precautions I can take, how to deal with it, how that it least impact me.
So wear a mask. that's the only
and we have been doing it for like 2 years in a
yeah. So make that a habit now for
right.
long term, even if the pandemic goes away. Because see, there are all these fancy gadgets which claim to clean up air and all of that, but I don't think that's really the way forward. Unless we solve the problem at the source, this is not going to go away, unfortunately. So I mean, sucking out pollution from air, etc. After all, it has to go somewhere. And if you keep on using energy to do that, then you are again keeping on adding to the problem. So those are not really the solutions. So figure out what are the sources and stop those sources. So stop I mean, go in for more scientific waste management systems in the city, reduce the number of vehicles on the road, and that requires two things. One is to have good public transport, and also to make public transport trendy, because just having good public transport doesn't automatically mean that people will start using it. You have to make it fashionable. Then people will stop using their vehicles and move to public transport. So these are the things that, I mean, somewhere one has to make a beginning and keep on going till we clean up the situation. But there is one more aspect here. I mean, WHO's warnings and all is fine. We have to also realize that dust is anyway there. I mean, we are a dusty, geographically, we are in a place which is naturally dusty. So the kind of air quality that WHO is demanding based on whatever their parameters are in the temperate regions, those are never going to be achieved in a tropical countries. So that is also something to keep in mind.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So the mantra, the mool mantra that you said today is wear a mask, and that's it. And use a lot of public transport. But then we know the truth that the public transport as of now is not that good and cannot be used only if maybe tier 1 cities have got good public transport, but not the other areas of the country. So at the same time, like you and sir have been talking a lot about, and we have all read about the Lancet Commission report, say the construction, say the vehicular traffic, and say the reasons for basically air pollution. But then nobody works on it. And as soon as there is pollution, there is a new court order that comes up. कि आज आप बंद कर दो, आज आप ये कर दो, आज आप वो कर दो. So nothing is actually happening on the ground throughout the years, and this is like maybe second or the third time in a row that we're seeing what is happening with Delhi and the cities around it. So maybe what we can say is because we are individuals and we cannot go to that kind of a level where we talk about improving the public transport or improving or putting up something that sucks up the pollution like you were just saying. So as an individual, what can we do so that we do not tend to increase air pollution?
Yeah, I'll take this up a little bit. See, if there is pollution outside, it's going to affect you no matter what, whether you stay outside or inside. So the only thing you can do is reduce your exposure as much as possible. Put on a mask, maybe it will cut down 50-60% of your pollution that you're breathing through your nose. That will help. Eventually, it will definitely help, given the amount of pollution that's there outside. Even inside, if you want to put on a mask, like why not? So that's the only way to reduce exposure. Okay. But if you want to reduce, even get rid of the mask, then you have to find a way to reduce the pollution outside from all the sources. That's the only way. Okay.
So what I wanted to know is, as an individual, what we can do to reduce air pollution.
Correct. So as an individual, there are a few things that one can do to make sure that you're not contributing to that pollution problem which is outside. Now, as simple as your vehicles, maintain your vehicles well. Okay, so what it does is it may improve your fuel efficiency by 5%, even if it is 1%. So what it does, less fuel burned means less pollution emitted. Now, if you keep your tires in check, that may you may be going now 12 kilometers per liter. You may go then 12.5 kilometers per liter. So that's the fuel efficiency improving, means that you're contributing less to the pollution problem. Same thing, the garbage. We keep saying produce as little garbage as possible. If there is garbage on the road, it may get taken to landfill and managed somehow, or if it's not picked up, it will get burnt. Okay. So as an individual, if we produce less garbage, so today you're producing a half a kilo, tomorrow try to produce only 0.4 kilos. So it will help in not getting things dumped on the road or dumped at the landfill or eventually getting burnt somewhere. So it's very important. As an individual, that's our responsibility to make sure of that. Now, if you want to take care of your wet waste, I mean, you don't really, not everybody can have a garden in a city, but you can have gamlas. So take care of your wet waste in your own gamlas. So it actually helps in not putting that outside on the road, and it will eventually get burnt. And more importantly, conserve energy. So the more energy you conserve by using efficient lighting or even using not so much of bulbs or equipment in the house, it will actually help in putting less load on the power plants, which means we don't have to produce as much power, whether it's coal power or diesel power or even renewable energy, it doesn't matter. So if we don't demand as much, then there will be less pressure on the grid. So that actually helps. So you may not. So right now doesn't mean that the power plants probably won't produce it. Power plants probably still produce it, but it does, that power doesn't have to come to the cities. It may go to the rural areas where it is really needed. So we have more than 30% of the rural areas still not electrified. Properly, they don't have bulb for 1 hour, 2 hours. No. So the whatever you conserve here, it will either put less strain on the grid, or that power will go to places where it's really needed. Okay. So as an individual, we can do these simple 3 things. It will probably help eventually, or down the road, it will definitely help.
So it's like every effort will be contributed and will be count if we all do our parts in the least minimum ways, starting from our own places, our own homes, schools, and it may lead to a bigger change in the world. All right. So there is one question coming up.
I would like to add to that. That is that we look at waste as what stuff, materials that we don't need. Like packaging or whatever, fruit peels or whatever. But even useful items that are in the home lying unused are also almost like waste. They are like a passive resource. So keeping passive resource active, converting passive resources into active is an important part of waste management as well. So it's like even like collaborative consumption, buying secondhand goods. So if you, it's better to donate something that you don't need to somebody who needs it, or giving it away, or getting things in exchange. So this whole exchange or swap culture is very useful in reducing your needs. So
right.
Because so you're not creating more, but you are utilizing what is there for a much longer period. Like if the jeans that we wear, they have used at least 4,000 liters of water, right from the production to the production of cotton till the manufacture and sale. So if those pair of jeans are used for a maximum amount of time, for as long as you can, that's a good thing. To buy things that are longer lasting is another important thing that we all could do. So in fact, we have these swap groups. We have 30 swap groups in Pune, which are meant across the city, which are meant for the sale, exchange, and donation of pre-owned household items. There is one in Delhi as well. There's one in Mumbai and in Nasik. So we are hoping that this culture of either collaborative consumption or swapping will grow across the country.
That's a brilliant idea and a culture that you're trying to develop, ma'am, throughout the cities, where if I don't need it, I can get it swapped. If the other person does not need it, I can take it from him. So that, like Sarat sir said, and you just explained, that it does not go in the waste and cause pollution at the later stages. And if there is 4,000 liters of water being wasted for a pair of jeans, or maybe in the production of jeans, then we should try to use it as much as possible. At the same time, work on our fuel efficiency, conserve fuel, and not throw garbage on the not throw garbage, plus may say let's produce less garbage at our homes at the same time. So there are some live questions that are coming up. Aliza, would you like to take up?
Yes, definitely. So Kiran, first question is from Kiran Timothy. Please unmute yourself and tell us where you're speaking from, and then followed by the question.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Kiran Timothy from Maharashtra, Chandrapur.
Okay.
So my question is, how to reduce pollution in everyday life as we are living in industrial area for safety of everyone?
Thank you, Kiran. Any of the panelists would like to take up this question? She's saying that she lives in an industrial area, and for which what measures she can take to minimize the impact of air pollution.
Yeah, so in this case, again, we come back to the same point that here the only thing you can do, Kiran, is try and reduce your exposure, because
Yes.
the industry is not really in your control. But as people living in that area, I mean, as citizens, you can come together and try to put some pressure on the industries to sort of push them to reduce their pollution, because we do have laws and rules in this country. They get abused a lot, unfortunately, but it has to be citizen pressure on surrounding industries, which will reduce the pollution at the sources. But in the meanwhile, you can only try to reduce your exposure by wearing masks and the solutions that we earlier discussed. I will have to leave in a couple of minutes, since I'm participating in another webinar at 5 o'clock. So
All right, not a problem, ma'am.
So basically what we're saying is, where Purnima ma'am and Priyadarshini ma'am has explained it so beautifully, where the humans have to collaborate, not just in terms of swapping their items, plus creating a unity and fighting for what is right and for a cleaner air to breathe in, and especially if you're in an area like nearby industries. So you have to come together and stay together and fight for it. Is that what you meant, ma'am? I
yeah,
hope.
yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
That
Yes.
is the only
Hello?
way forward. Yeah.
Yes,
Hello.
and I think one more thing that will help is building your own immunity in various ways. I mean, making sure you're hydrated, making sure you're eating well.
In
And
terms of immunity, there's one thing that I personally wanted to ask, because as soon as these things come up with smog is there, PM 2.5 has raised, there's a lot of pollution. We see a lot of big banners coming up on the front pages of a newspaper where they are saying, "Aap Chyawanprash khao, aapko PM 2.5 ki dikkat nahi hogi." I don't want to take up the brand's name, but are these remedies good? Is taking a spoon of honey, is taking a spoon of Chyawanprash going to help an individual? Yes or no? That's it. I don't
Hello?
know. I really wanted to know, because a lot of individuals are going to try those ghar ki nani ki recipes, which I have no clue is going to help. And because we have these experts on our panel at Sharp NGO today, I want you to clear these myths.
Well, one thing, I'm not a biologist nor a health professional, but as a scientist, this is the logic that I'm talking about. All these remedies were suggested at a time when all this pollution was not there. Right. So we don't really know whether they are going to provide us with immunity to fight these new threats that have emerged since these remedies were evolved. So that's the simple part of it. uh, Again, we come to the same thing. The only sure short way of solving this problem: kill the pollution at the sources. Everything else is just secondary. The focus has to be on killing the sources. That is the only way we are going to have a sustainable, long-term, permanent solution of this issue.
Of course, as it is said that precaution is better than cure. So why to create for which we need to find these solutions? Thank you so much. Let's have, ma'am, you want to?
Yeah. If I can,
yeah, sure,
brief,
ma'am. We understand the situations. It was wonderful having you, ma'am. Hope to see you in our
Thank you.
other.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this interesting opportunity. Thanks. Bye.
So here's our next question coming. Hema Bhavani, please unmute yourself and tell us where you're speaking from, and then followed by the question.
I'm Hemavani from Tamil Nadu, Ranipet. My question is, why is air pollution is a problem, and what is the impact of air pollution on human health?
Are you a student, Hema?
Seems some issue, but then we've got the question, so we can get the answers till then.
Air pollution is a problem because it's not supposed to be there. And you're breathing, the amount that you're breathing now is really not advisable at all in any of the sense. Now these are chemically active pollutants, and they have a very well-defined response to our human body. Every one of these pollutants have a response. One of the things that we learn in school, very first thing, is how carbon monoxide, if you're exposed to very high levels, it has a very strong tendency to attach itself to hemoglobin, and within 10 to 15 minutes at large doses, you die. So that's why it's very well advised. You don't, if there's a car running in a closed environment, don't stay there for long. Don't stand in a tunnel where a lot of vehicles are moving up and down, because there's a buildup of carbon monoxide. So the same thing happens with other pollutants as well. So it's just that 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that was, other pollutants were not as much in concentration as they are today, but they are now. So you have the very first question that we had in this session is ozone. Ozone in the stratosphere at way up there at 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers, that is good ozone. We want all the ozone up there. Okay, so we don't want ozone where we are breathing. So the ozone at our breathing levels is not good, but ozone up there at 50 kilometers is very good. So we want all the ozone up there. We want to make all the ozone there, but not here. So when we didn't have as many vehicles 30, 40 years ago, there were not many nitrogen oxides, not much volatile organic compounds to make that ozone. But now we are making that ozone where we are breathing, where we are living. Now it is affecting us. So these pollutants are, as I said, they're very chemically active, and they will attack our body in different ways. And then now we are finding more endpoints that are getting affected by air pollution. Earlier, they used to say that only asthma and pneumonia are the main key things which were affected, but now we're adding to that list dementia, obesity, the pregnancy issues, all kinds of things are getting added because now we are studying more and more about it. So air pollution is a problem because we have created it. Even like climate change, air pollution is also completely man-made. You burn something, it will create emissions, and that emissions will eventually get translated into pollution that we are breathing.
Thank you so much, sir. So just to sum it up, coming and saying it again, that air pollution is a disaster and people are going to die because of it and are already dying because of it. Right, sir? Okay. So our next question is from Probir. Can we unmute him, please? Probir, sir? Probir Kumar Rai ji, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. There's some problem. Aliza, would you like to read up his question?
Please don't.
Aliza, you're
muted.
So his question is, I heard yagya based on Ayurveda is good for environment. So is it true or not? Or is this just a misconception?
It's like saying, I'll burn all the waste in my house and that will help me breathe better. No. When we categorically say that anything you burn is not good for your environment and not good for your health. Whether you do it in the name of religion or you do it in the name of air pollution or for personal help. No, it doesn't help. No, there's yagnas and all. It's all not even centuries. There are like very, very old times when there were no vehicles. There was nothing that was contributing to our air pollution problem. Now, in science, atmospheric science, there's one phrase called cloud nucleation. And so the cloud nucleation means that No, there are these tiny particles that are there. Once they get to like 3-4 kilometers high, there are not that many particles up there. But if you have small particles, even a small water droplet, so what it does is it starts more nucleation. So that propagates the formation of cloud way up there. And the cloud becomes big enough that it bursts, and the rain forms. So we hear in these Puranas saying that, oh, we do this yajna and the rain comes. So the idea was that, okay, you do some cloud nucleation and then that will propagate the cloud formation, and the cloud formation will give some rain. But that is not the same now. You can't translate that whole thing. This is science behind what we call as cloud nucleation. So it doesn't form because you burn something on the ground. You burn something, you're breathing it, it will affect your own health and everybody around you.
All right.
It's a complete myth.
Thanks a lot, sir, because you've actually scientifically explained it to the easiest possible way so that one can understand that you burn something, you are going to create pollution. And that is the hard truth reality. Forget the myths and please stay away from burning anything in whatever you feel like burning. So thank you so much, sir.
Also, yeah, so I would like to take up our, these are the last two questions we will be taking. So there is another question is, how can the pollution is impacting the quality of food crops? Because there is a lot of pollution in the air, and whatever we get, we receive, it somewhere affects the quality of the food that we intake. So how does it we can help ourselves to get reduce the impact?
I have not that much knowledge on the food production cycle. Yeah, I'll skip this.
Right, Ms. Poonima ma'am, would you like to take up?
I'm sorry, I don't know the scientist.
All right. So our next and last question, let me just unmute him, is from Salim. 1 second. Can we please unmute Salim?
Yeah.
Yeah, Salim, please tell us where are you speaking from, and then followed by the question.
Yeah, I'm actually calling in from Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. And yeah, I'm doing some work on climate change. And my question was that since it's such a hot topic with such major implications, especially as far as industry is concerned, how can we as individuals really play a role, and how can we really make a difference? The question was specifically for Poonima.
Yeah, so to answer your question, what is it that we can do to reduce climate change? One, of course, the most important thing I think is awareness among the general public, because climate change has serious impacts on human life and human existence even, and that is something that most people are not aware of. They've been, despite seeing the impacts of climate change, the cyclone Amphan, the cyclone Taukte, which hit the western east coast so recently. Yet people are not aware of the kinds of things that this is due to climate change, and this is due to the things that to the lifestyles that we have now. So one is building awareness among the general public about the serious impacts of climate change. The second, that we need to sensitize policymakers to make them understand the threat of climate change, and that we need faster action. So like Priyadarshini ma'am had said, we need to mobilize people to come together and speak to policymakers, administrators, that we need clean air and healthy living, and we need faster action. In fact, China used to have the worst air pollution figures in the world. But since 2000, they were able to decrease these air pollution levels simply because of their clean air policies. And I think this is something that we really need to do right away. Besides that, I would say we need to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. Across all, we need to reduce carbon emissions. So we use fossil fuels in absolutely every sector, whether it's energy, whether it's transport, it's food, it's agriculture, industry. We need to reduce that dependence on fossil fuels. And we need to shift to renewable green energy sources, solar, wind, whether it's water, electrical, biogas, hydro projects. So this is the second. Then, of course, as Sarath is, we need to use public transport, and we need to push for improvement in public transport. We probably need to promote electric vehicles and infrastructure to support that those electric vehicles. A lot of people I know out here have electric vehicles, but they are not easy charging points for these electric vehicles. So that's something that I know the government is working on, but that's something that needs to be done. The other thing is that the infrastructure, like I think Sarath had said, that the roads have to be improved. The looking after your cars, your vehicles need to be improved, so that helps in fuel efficiency. Then we need to also look at ways of traffic congestion, whether it's driving during off-peak hours or letting people know. Letting people know that these are not non-peak hours, and we prefer you to drive during these hours. Then provision of cycle lanes is another thing, because more and more people, I think I found during the COVID times, have switched to riding cycles, and that perhaps is a good thing to do. Then of course we have to protect our forests. We need to grow more trees. We need to reduce our food wastage. I think we are the world probably wastes about 25 to 30% of food cooked and processed. So yeah, we need to reduce resource wastage. Forest land of the size of a football field, they say, are cut down every second to make way for plant and animal agriculture. So the moment we reduce our meat eating or our food and resource food wastage, this all will come down drastically. Then, of course, educating. We need to educate our children. We need to have a climate curriculum in schools. We need to explain to them the importance of clean air. We need to explain to them the change in lifestyles. We probably need to get youth to campaign for clean air, and what are the various things that they can do to reduce climate change, to mitigate it. I also have one more thing that I would like to, it's probably like a bit of a philosophical thing. And that is that we as materialism is another very big factor. We've sort of begun to believe that prosperity and well-being can only be achieved by material things. Now that has also caused an unhealthy dependence on fossil fuels. And we don't realize that we are destroying the very things that make life possible. We need to understand that we are a species of the earth, and that we need to understand that we need to understand the ecological linkages of ours and the rest of the earth around us, and we must try and do everything possible to maintain that. And if our children have to have a future, then it's time to do something for the environment, to protect our environment, and to amplify these global efforts. So these are at a larger level. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So it literally cuts across various facets of life. It's almost changing lifestyle patterns also. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, also, we would like to see the PPT you would like to show. You're on mute, ma'am.
Ma'am, you're on...
I think a lot of it has been covered. A
Right.
lot of what has been, it's been covered by Sarath and Priyadarshini. And
All right.
If
That's
you would
absolutely
like
fine.
the slide to show us the slides, maybe that will help. Or
Sure. Would you like me to show the slides?
Yes, it will help everybody.
Yeah, sure. I could do that. Yeah. 1 second. Uh, 1 second. Can you see it?
Not yet, ma'am.
Just a second.
Yeah, we can see it now, ma'am.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah. Yeah. So this is my presentation. So why are we really discussing climate change and air pollution? It is the elephant in the room, and like COVID has completely taken us by surprise, and the pandemic has completely changed a lot of things. Whereas climate change has, I mean, we all know that climate change is there. We know its impacts, and yet we seem to do nothing about it. This is something that we really need to take care of. We all know that climate change is a health emergency. I think Rahul, in your introduction, you mentioned that it's the biggest health threat of the 21st century. It's and also air pollution is a threat to human health, and this is a very sad thing that 21 of the top 30 cities with the poorest air quality in the world are in India. This is something we all know what causes climate change. We know that the recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the 6th assessment report, very unequivocally says that human influence has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land. And there are widespread and rapid changes that have occurred in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere, and the biosphere. And human influence, it is the human influence that has warmed the climate at a rate that is unprecedented in at least the last 2000 years. So there has been global temperature rise. The planet has warmed up since the late 19th century by 1.18 degrees Celsius. And this is largely driven by carbon dioxide emissions from human activity. The global warming, if global warming of 1.5 or 2 degrees happens, is likely to happen in the 21st century. And if it happens, and unless deep reductions in carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gas emissions doesn't occur in the coming decade, then the effects are really disastrous for us. We know that that climate change has caused the ocean to get warmer, ocean acidification, shrinking ice sheets. The Antarctic has lost about 148 billion tons of ice per year, has been losing. The sea level rise has increased by 0.2 meters, but between 1901 and 2018. This is a great threat to all our coastal, to all the coastal areas as well as our island nations. The very existence of some of these island nations is under threat, such as the Maldives. The changes that occur to our weather and climate due to climate change are higher average temperatures. There is greater variability with wetter wets, drier dries, and hotter hots. There are more frequent and severe extreme heat events. There are more severe droughts. There will be more intense precipitation, rains such as severe rains and cyclones. There will be more and severe floods and recurrent coastal flooding with high tides and storm surges. There will be worsening air quality. And what are the impacts of climate change on our health? There is going to be injury, illness, or death due to these extreme weather events. There is an increase in cardiovascular and respiratory diseases due to the increased aeroallogens and air pollution. Then there will be water and food security due to reduced crop yields and poor quality water sources resulting from changing weather patterns. There is increase in vector-borne diseases such as dengue, malaria, as a result of warmer weathers and changing rainfall patterns. They say the increase of pandemics is also on the rise. Impact on mental health, that's a very, very important point. Impact on mental health as well as associated social and economic impacts due to climate change. So climate change is therefore the biggest global health threat of the 21st century. But are we prepared for it? Are we prepared for climate change? No, we are not. Because climate emergencies have already started. We can see that in the cyclones across, which cause economic damage of 15,000 crores. This one cyclone Taukte has caused a 15,000 crore economic damage, whereas cyclone Amphan last year cost 104,000 crore damage. And this economic losses are huge. Floods in Asia and Europe, so no country spared. Even the countries that have caused it, that have been the cause for climate change are equally affected. There are droughts in India. There are landslides. We all know these. We've seen these photographs. There are forest fires, not just in India, but also in So what is it? What do we do? One, of course, is both. We know both climate change and air pollution are worsened by burning of fossil fuels that increase the carbon dioxide emissions for global warming. There are 300 toxic particles that are released when fossil fuels are burned, and the toxic gases and particulate matter. In fact, toxic gases is what I think Sarat did mention. He mentioned his diagram was absolutely fantastic, and I think I needed to. They add to the climate problem, and they add to the effects of air pollution in human beings. So one, of course, is reduction in the use of fossil fuels, and switching to greener sources and technology is the way forward. The air pollution levels are growing of 30. Well, we know all these things. All the dark patch is in the map is extremely hazardous levels of air pollution. The World Health Organization report warns that air pollution causes 7 million premature deaths a year worldwide and 13 deaths every minute. If you look at the air pollution levels in Delhi and around, the air quality index doesn't measure anything beyond 999. And if you look at Ghaziabad, it's showing as 999. That's really very high. And it doesn't go beyond. So that's we know for sure that that levels in Ghaziabad are just absolutely not meant for human beings to, or any living beings to be on. Living under. If you look at the map, the maroon is all hazardous. The purple is purple is very unhealthy. That's the mark. Including, if you look at the air pollution levels in Mumbai, now Mumbai is along the city. I mean along the sea. So air quality index is really very high despite its proximity to the sea. You see, Vasai, Mumbai, it's 166, which is extremely unhealthy. The only thing is that in Borivali is showing as moderate because it's next to a national park. So, very clear indication that if you are next to any green body, next to a national park, next to a forested area, then you are much safer. So, hence we need to green our land, and we need to preserve our forests. That was about the cities. Air pollution levels in rural areas is also really high. Toxic gases are produced by burning fossil fuels, burning biomass, coupled with poor ventilation in kitchens. They all have a profound effect on women and children, and even pregnant mothers. The sources of all pollution, I think all this has been covered. Dust in construction, what Sarat mentioned. Stubble burning, cooking again has been responsible for that. The Asian brown cloud in areas even during COVID times where there was no other activity, there were no vehicles yet. The cloud, brown cloud remained, and that was because of cooking in the rural areas. Transport, again, fossil fuels used in vehicles. Most cities are turning into gas chambers because of the low quality vehicles, not well maintained vehicles, unplanned urbanization, industrialization. There is complete mismanagement of the landfills and poor waste management. That's something that we need to do about. And that's something that we can do even at individual levels. Industries, mine or construction workers, again, have show high incidence of silicosis, asbestosis, and other domestic cooking, again, biomass cooking, cookstoves in over 100 million Indian households are used 2 to 3 times a day. And these rural women suffer from COPD. COPD is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is seen very often in smokers. But these rural women are not smokers, but they are smoking the smoke from the cooking, and that's from biomass. What happens in there is the effects of this of domestic cooking air pollution due to domestic cooking is seen in even in cognitive function. You have low IQ, and ultimately all that results in economic burden to the families or to the country as well. The cutting of trees for animal and plant agriculture and widening of roads, again, is one of the sources. Poor, unsustainable lifestyles, as I mentioned before, and of course, uncontrolled population explosion. So it says that in Indian cities, there is no non-smoker. So what are the things that we could do? I think I mentioned this: awareness, sensitization, influence, action. Reduce carbon emissions, dependence on fossil fuels, switch to renewable green energy sources, use public transport, promote electrical vehicles, protect our forests, educate, climate curriculum, and change in philosophy. This is what I had said. But at the individual level, what can we do to tackle or to mitigate air pollution and climate change? One is there are many things that we can do in the house. One, we use electricity and cooking gas judiciously. We switch to renewable energy in homes. We switch off lights and appliances when not in use. We use the AC only when necessary and set it not at a very cold, much higher than levels. We switch to green energy. There are subsidies available on solar PV for residential complexes or homes. I think that's something that we could really do at individual levels. We improve the insulation in doors and windows. That will certainly help. Then we cut out food waste, cut down on red meat. Simplest is to stop. Reduce the meat and dairy in your diet. Then you buy local and seasonal fruits and vegetables. It's best to buy foods fruit and vegetables that come from close by, and buy them only when they're in season. Then you can, at home, you can make smaller meal portions, and if there are leftovers, to save them for later at home. The third is you need to manage your waste mindfully. We have to find ways to reuse and recycle all of it. So waste reduced and segregated at source is preferable. Repair and reuse is certainly better than recycle, as it increases the life cycle of any product. Recycling also uses more energy, and therefore it is less preferable. Do repair and reuse. Compost your organic waste at home. Make your own bioenzyme. The bioenzymes are made with fruit peels and all for cleaning your floor, toilets, and plants. Do not use the chemical products for cleaning your floor, toilets, and then you can stop use of single-use plastic. This actually and other use and throw items. We can carry our own water. We can carry cloth bags for shopping. And when we order in, we can request for no cutlery. We can carry our own straw. These are very simple things, which I think a lot of people are probably already doing. We can drive less and also fly less. Transport is responsible for almost a quarter of global carbon dioxide emissions. Living car-free is probably the most impactful thing that we can do. Using public transport, lobbying for better public transport facilities is important. Then little things like walking and cycling to local shops or carpooling with friends and neighbors is another thing that we could all do. We could buy electric cars. Still, not really good enough because we are not really sure. We need to lobby perhaps for better infrastructure for electric vehicles. Domestic flights have largest emissions per person per kilometer. So perhaps taking a train would help. Think before you buy. Yeah, this is what I had mentioned. So repair instead of replace, donate instead of throw away, choose longer lasting items, try collaborative consumptions, rent items that you don't need often. You could also buy secondhand. Then check for a swap platform in your city. You all can contact me if you need to either start a swap platform in your city. We could help you with it. Then choosing energy efficient household appliances for reducing the carbon footprint is another important thing. Yeah, so all of us, without being conscious of it, we are all contributing to climate change in many ways. At the same time, we are at the receiving end of the effects of our actions. And that's something that we need to remember. Hence, each one of us matters and can make a difference to this. Yeah, that's it.
It was a wonderful explanation, ma'am. I think everybody is taking a lot from this PPT. Very wonderful, informative, and a lot of key factors are there which we too can use in our daily lives, like consuming less. We should not replace, instead of, if we can, repair. So these are very fine things that we all can consider. Over to you, Rahul.
Absolutely. And ma'am, there was this one point that hit me hard from the PPT, which was that in Indian cities, there is no non-smoker, which is actually a big thing to say. And everybody who's going through this will understand that this needs to be taken care of as soon and as fast as possible, so that we can have clean and fresh air to breathe, even for the population that is going to come. So thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful presentation that you were showing. Perhaps you should have shown it in the start, and then we would have just gone to the live question answer round. So thank you, ma'am, and thank you so much, sir. Sarat sir, are you here? Okay, thank you so much, sir, for being here with us today. And I would just like to announce that our sharpest question winner is Mr. Salim. So Salim, sir, you will get your voucher soon, and somebody from the communication team will contact you for the same.
It was a wonderful panel, and it was wonderful having such an esteemed panelist on the subject. It was wonderful having you. Thank you so much. And all the attendees as well who have make out some time to join the webinar, and please pass the information which we have received from this webinar. It would be wonderful. We need a lot of people to aware more people, and there's a lot of lack of awareness is there in our country. The more we spread, the better results we may expect. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
a lot.
inviting me.
By chance, if the panelists would like to add something in the end, maybe a line or two, and then we can go to the feedback.
I would like to say that I feel blessed to have Sarat and Priyadarshini, because both of you, I have learned a lot today. I am not a scientist, and I only work at the grassroots. So my knowledge of climate change and air pollution is more to do with the work that I do in the community, which is bringing people together, getting them to recycle. We have a recycling center in the city in Pune, and that recycling center has helped us. Has helped actually everybody in the community recycle, and we don't call anything a waste, we call it a resource, which is why it's called Resource Recycling Center. We're trying to get people to stop calling anything waste, because truly nothing is waste. And yeah, so this is what. So thank you so much, Sarat, and absolute pleasure. I've learned a lot today. Thank you, and thank you, Rahul and Aliza and Sharp NGO for having invited me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have whatever I presented. It's all there on our website as well. All the graphics, infographics, anything you want, please come to our website and download it. And if you have any questions, send an email.
Thank you so much, sir.
And now we are having a small feedback form on the screen. We would request all the attendees, and I guess even the panelists can fill the same. And if any of your questions were unanswered, please post it using hashtag webinar by Sharp on social media platforms, and we will try to answer these questions as soon as possible. All the certificates of all the participants will be emailed within 2 days after the webinar. Kindly request you to please fill up the feedback form. And thank you so much for attending today's webinar. For latest updates on our upcoming webinars and for interesting information, please visit www.schoolindia.org/subscribe.php. We will be sharing the link in the chat box as well. Sharp NGO also conducts free diabetes awareness sessions for school students pan India with the aim to create awareness on diabetes and provides preventive education among children and the parents. To register your school, please write to us at srishti@schoolindia.org.
Sharp NGO also conducts free mental health awareness sessions for School Pan India. To register your school for the same, please visit our website www.schoolindia.org. Thank you once again to all the attendees and panelists to be on the panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. To support our work and know more, please visit us and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and you can visit our website www.schoolindia.org.in.